Welcome to the Independent Artist Podcast, sponsored by the National Association of Independent Artists.
Also sponsored by Zapplication. I'm Will Armstrong, and I'm a mixed media artist.
I'm Douglas Sigworth, glassblower. Join our conversations with professional working artists. All right, everybody, let's do this. We are back for another week on the Independent Artist Podcast. Thanks for joining us. Well, I'm sure a lot of you are behind the wheel, heading cross-country to your next show, and so is Will. So he's not with us this week. But we decided to try something a little different. We went back through the last 4 seasons of the podcast, and we decided to invite back one of our guests from season 1. Her name was invoked last week, everyone. Please welcome back to the show as our guest co-host this week, Keena Crow. Hey, Keena, welcome.
Hi, Douglas. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor. I was so thrilled.
Well, I'd like to say I just saw you last weekend in Plaza. I know you were there and I was there, but we were too busy. We didn't get to see each other's faces, did we?
No, I didn't know. I would have made a point of running over to your booth, but I didn't see you on the website. So I didn't know you were at that show. So it surprised me when you said you were driving home for Plaza.
You know why? We got the call like a couple of days before. And we were like, well, we still didn't have our lazy asses unloading the van from the previous show. So we just hopped in the van and did the unusual and just said, okay, let's go do it. So we hopped in the van and drove down to Kansas City.
I flew into Kansas City because my son Max drives my van for me. And I went through Minneapolis.
Did you
and
really?
I didn't even realize like it's not bad. It's not a bad drive even. It's not that far. How far are you guys driving?
About 6.5, 7 hours.
That's
so,
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We were there lickety split.
I would totally come run in for that show. But what kind of a load-in time did you get?
We got assigned 11 o'clock, like the hottest, getting into the hottest part of the day. So we decided to come before any of the load-in times, park in the intersection, and we carted in pretty much everything before. Yeah, before it was crazy. How about you?
Yeah, no, we went ahead and like Max doesn't really want to get up that early to load anything in.
Well, we know you're the early riser, right?
It depends. It depends. Okay. And we did another little Labor Day show and then got ready for this. And so it's been a super busy month. But yeah, we got the 10 a.m. load in. And it was one of the worst setups ever just because of the brutal heat and there's zero shade.
Oh my gosh.
You got to unload all your stuff. It's like if we could just have enough time, just set up the tent and we have some freaking shelter.
Right. Instead of just getting it all out on the curb.
Yeah. But they gave me an award. So next year I could get to pick my own load-in time.
That's right. Yay. I was going to give you a good old-fashioned applause
Thank
on
you.
that one. Good job.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Because they make you leave your stuff there. Everybody has stuff that has to go back in their vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
We have to park in the outside parking. We go to the Courtyard by Marriott, which is honestly, it's only like a 2.5 block, but it is uphill. Mm-hmm. So uphill in the heat with 2 dollies full of stuff. We were just like, we thought at one point, both of us thought an ambulance might have to get us, but we made it. But it was really, really brutal. So,
well, not to like make light. I mean, but somebody did actually get hauled off to the ER. An artist in the 400s area down by us.
Oh, I did not know that.
Well, it's bad. As of where it stands right now, somebody was talking about it on social media, one of the art fair groups, that they are in a medically induced coma.
Oh.
So it's bad news. The heat is not anything that we should be, messing around with. So.
And honestly, I think it was Saturday night. And of course, we are all watching the radar. And the predictions are like, yeah, it's not going to start raining till 11 o'clock. Mm-hmm. I had a great little neighborhood and we were watching that radar like a hawk. And we're like, nope, it's going to start raining. You could see it on the radar. Like it might start just dripping at 8 o'clock, but by 8:45, the thunder and lightning are going to come. So we just we felt one drop and we said, sorry, but we're closing up.
Okay. This is Saturday, right?
Yes, Saturday night. And we got about halfway up the hill to our hotel. And there goes the lightning. And that's like the rain. I can do the rain, but the lightning it scares the crap out of me.
And it should, for good reason. We've known people who've also had bad bad
Yeah.
scene from lightning. Yeah.
So as much as I like to play by the rules, I'm like, I don't like to get in trouble. I feel bad for closing, especially when people came out,
Yeah.
parked and schlepped down to see that. But it's not good for them either, right? So
Mm-hmm.
staying open doesn't help the public.
No.
And also Kyle Dahlquist made a point of like, if you wait till it starts raining really hard, you're going to have 25 people in your booth for an hour
Right.
and a half waiting for it to pass.
Right. And then how do you kick them out? It's like, all right, everyone out of here.
I actually started buying like umbrellas at the dollar store.
Really?
And I just kind of stash them in my crate. And if I get shelter seekers, I'm like, oh, here's a free umbrella. You can go.
Like, what a kind lady. She's not kicking us out. She's providing us with an umbrella. Love it. We did the same thing, though. David Mayhew, a storm chaser photographer on the scene.
Okay.
He sent us a text to let us know, hey, this is what's coming, blah, blah, blah. And same deal. When we started feeling the raindrops coming, I did kind of a soft close, where you could be ready a little faster to close down. And I looked down the street and I saw a couple of painters completely zipping up. And I'm like, hey, that's all the excuse we need. Once one person drops their sidewalls, the rest of them follow suit.
We actually had a gentleman sneak back as we were literally closing. And I'm taking a piece off the wall. He goes, don't put it away yet.
Oh, really?
But he was asking for a discount.
Oh,
And Max is just like, no.
Not now.
No.
This is not the time.
Well, his wife had bought a piece earlier that day, but it's their anniversary. And she also loved this other one. She's like, oh, I just love it. I love it. And he snuck back to get it for her for an anniversary present. And I know he's looking at a chunk out of his wallet that he wasn't expecting to spend.
Right.
And I, of course, I feel sorry for him. I'm like, Max, just And Max is like, no. It's like, honestly, he's like my rock, especially if it depends. If somebody wants some kind of a deal, how many pieces are they buying? How many pieces do they already have? I'm like, I just have to ask my boss because he does math real fast and I don't. So
otherwise you'd give the house away, right?
I would give everything away. I wouldn't charge anyone for anything if I was a bazillionaire. I just make stuff and give it away because I like to make stuff.
Well, I wanted to also let everyone out there who's listening know that David Mayhew actually, as a service to the art fair community, has a Facebook page called the Art Fair Weather Forecasts. He has a page. So if people go on there and like it, if he's at a show and he's going to be there, he'll give updates and let people know what the radar looks like because he's got the models. He's got the weather model forecasts going.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so super cool with that. Yeah, I was going to ask you about the rain. I mean, some people, I think, looked at that forecast and saw rain and they bailed. And I think that's one of the reasons why we probably got in last minute. I mean, what do you think about that?
I don't know if it was the rain or the temperature. The thing is, it's you never know.
Mm-hmm.
Like it could say that it's going to rain all day and then it's fine. Or it can say that it's hot and it's not. And it can always change. That brutal weather can move. But this was not cool. And I get it. I just, part of the reasons, so I have a private show this coming weekend. It's like, he's throwing a birthday party for me, this awesome collector friend in Wichita.
Oh my God.
So we're basically on the way to Wichita. So I wouldn't have canceled. And I had a really, really, really good show. I wasn't really expecting it either.
I mean, I think of it kind of like, we've committed to something. And honestly, the forecast and what actually ended up happening during show hours, when it did rain, it was kind of just drizzly. I mean, I didn't think it really hurt the attendance much. Did you feel like it did?
No, I don't think so. I thought it was really well attended. I absolutely do. Mm-hmm. Good collectors are absolutely still out there. I mean, we get people that come from Des Moines, St. Louis. Mm-hmm. There's a gal who added 2 more pieces to her collection.
Cool. That
they drove from Omaha.
It's close enough to some of those major spots, Midwestern cities. Hey, did you see that lady walk in the show? I think it was Saturday, maybe Sunday, with that massive snake around her neck.
We did.
Oh my! What do you think of that when people show up with those things?
Oh, I mean, I don't know if it's an attention thing. Like, I'm like, I guess she's a weirdo, but also like be a
Embrace the
weirdo.
weirdo.
I'm a
Yeah,
weirdo. We're
right.
all weirdos. It's not my thing. So I probably would, there was a guy in Greenville outside my booth with some kind of a lizard, like something dragon. And he was
Okay.
really cool. And it
Yeah.
drew a bunch of kids and he was so nice and it was like really informative and it was like right in front of my booth. But I'm also like, wow, he's using it as an opportunity to go someplace where he knows there's children and he can like teach them
Okay. Yeah.
something, So I don't, I
I
don't
don't know.
know.
Those
Like I
snakes
don't want
are
a snake around my freaking neck.
no, and it's
That's
so
gross.
triggering for some people. You'd see people like giving this horrified look on their face as the lady's walking down the street. But yeah, it was an attention seeker, that's for sure.
Not as many dogs as we normally would see.
Uh-huh.
It's weird. The crowd changes from year to year, and you never know who's going to show up. You never know who's going to be there. I did
Mm-hmm.
not talk to a single juror.
I didn't
They
see
didn't do
one.
the
Yeah.
little stamps. I didn't see one. And of course, there's no longer like a breakfast and awards breakfast.
Oh.
That we just got an email saying, "Oh, you won an award."
Well, that's kind of anticlimactic, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it might be this group's like first or second time like doing the show, and
Oh.
Chris Dahlquist had also gotten an award. And like normally we wanna leverage that and we want to put a big something up in our booth
Yeah.
to say, hey, we're an award winner, like because the patrons are going to be like, oh, she's an award winner. Let's go and look at her booth.
Yeah.
So we didn't know if we were getting anything. We did end up getting like a plaque, but it was towards the end of the day. I don't think they had as many volunteers as they normally would have.
Okay. I think you're right.
And so Chris, of course, she figures out everything. She figured out how to like make a little video and like download a blue ribbon sticker to say that she was a prize winner. And I was just about to do that, but then my next door neighbor goes, "Let me take a video of you." And it was like right after she posted that, they came with the little plaque.
Okay. So you still got
I'm
to do
thrilled.
your own pomp and circumstance that way.
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
Well, cool.
Yeah, you got to do it. You got to do all of it. I mean, I just think Chris Dahlquist is like one of the smartest humans on the planet.
True,
And
yeah.
especially when it comes to this, she knows a lot. She knows a lot. And her deal is like, you paid for your space, you get in there and work it. You maximize like everything you have for those hours. Because the rest of the time we are relying on social media. We're relying on emails. Social media is hard for me because Facebook, I can't even navigate anymore. They changed something and now I don't know how to work it.
Yeah.
But Instagram, I'm trying to post at least a few times a week. It's free advertising.
Yeah.
It's stupid not to, in my opinion, stupid not to use it. But I understand that it gets a little bit overwhelming.
It seems like you actually have quite a following on Instagram. And
I've been really trying really hard to kind of pump that number up.
Yeah.
So because once you get to 10,000, then you can put links to things. It comes with like lots of bonuses. And I'm still about 1,800 away. But I started doing the little QR codes in my booth that will say, follow me on Instagram. I also have one that says sign up for my email list. And then I bought this gorgeous leather book. I had Michael Mitchell, she does the journals, the gorgeous leather and watercolor paper journals.
Yeah, and she was at the show. She was at the show this year. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I got to see her briefly one night, but I mean her pieces they're so yummy. But I just take a little pedestal, they lay really nice and flat, and I put it out there and I'm getting emails, like people's emails, and emails are really important. Social media can go away, but your email list,
that's everything.
Like all this other stuff can change. Your email list is super, super important. So I also have a QR code in my booth to sign up for my email list.
Well, I've done the QR code thing too, and I have it linked to a link tree, which is all of it. You know what I mean? Like to do website, whatever. But I'm not seeing a lot of the Instagram follows. But one thing I've been trying lately is I'll have those conversations with collectors. They'll like some of our wall stuff. And I used to pull up images from my photo reel on my phone and show them things. And so then I thought recently, I'm like, maybe it's a better idea to pull up the Instagram and then get them at that point to find the Instagram on their phone and actually get them to like it there or follow there, because then they can stay engaged with the new stuff we're posting. I don't know. We'll see if that works or not.
Yeah. I mean, just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks, right?
Right.
I mean, because I think also what I do might not work for another artist,
Yeah.
and vice versa, because our collectors can be kind of all over the place, different ages.
Right.
Like most of my collectors are women over 40. So much so that somebody had come into my booth, a couple came into my booth and they were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're meeting you in person. And like, they made me feel so special. But he's like, we acquired one of your pieces out in the world. And I was like, what does that mean? And she was like,
out in the world?
We bought it at a thrift store. Oh. And she goes, it was a really high-end thrift store. And she goes, it wasn't cheap. She goes, we don't have art collecting money. And I saw this and I had been following you and I'd seen you here at the show. She goes, I grabbed it. I didn't even ask my husband. And I was like, I don't care. And I very, very likely, I mean, what's happening to me when I first started making this work like 20 years ago, I sold to a lot of people in their 70s and even in their 80s, and they're probably not on the planet anymore. So their kids don't want it. Like, didn't go in a dumpster.
Yeah, that's good.
Like, I'm fine with that. I see a lot of my work on like eBay. Like, not a lot, but here and there, I'll see it on eBay. And
somebody recently, just like this past couple of days, sent us a picture of a really old piece, like 30-year-old piece that was ours, and said, is this yours? And said, it looks like your signature, and they live in the town just nearby us. And I said, why, yes, it is. And they go, that is wild. You're never going to believe we got this at something like a secondhand store or whatever in Seattle, of all places. While they were traveling out to see the Chihuly exhibit, they brought it home, and then they looked up our signature on the bottom and found out that they live a couple miles from our house. So it's just crazy, just wild, this business we're in. I remember you said on your episode, you said it's like fucking magic. They just find us, right? It's magic.
We're so lucky. What a great life. I mean, honestly, I was practically crying I took my shirt and made it as a turban on my head when I was setting up at Plaza. I had no water in my body or I would have cried.
Yeah.
And like kept thinking like, this is Dune. This is just like Dune. Oh. So it's so hot. Like it made me wonder, it was like the Christians say about me, you will burn in hell. It was happening then. I'm totally sure they're right, but it was like, is that what's happening? It's awful.
Am I in hell? Did I die?
This episode of the Independent Artist Podcast is brought to you by Zap, the digital application service where artists and art festivals connect.
So I've started using the events list feature in Zap to search up some different shows to fill those holes in my schedule.
I feel like I should have something to say, but I wasn't really listening to you because I'm looking at the events list right now, and it's pretty cool. Okay, so you drop the menu down, and there at the bottom, go scrolling all the way. About third thing down in the smaller print, it just says events list.
That's right. All of the shows appear here regardless of their application deadline. You can use the filtering and the sorting to narrow down your search so that you can find that right show that fills your desired time frame or location.
I know a lot of people love that calendar. I like seeing the list of events. I like scrolling through and doom scrolling late at night. It's like online dating. They don't let you swipe left or right, but you can figure out who you want to date in the coming up year. So, Kina, you notice what I got going on in the background here? My young Frankenstein poster?
Frankenstein. I love, first of all, who doesn't love friggin' Mel Brooks?
Yes.
And everyone in that cast. But I was super lucky. I think it was 81, maybe 82.
Okay.
I got to work with Madeline Kahn and Marty Feldman.
Shut up. What was it?
It was a little low budget movie that Kurt Vonnegut had written a book called Slapstick, or Slapstick of Another Kind. Uh-huh. And he the guy who directed it, he had known since he was a child. Anyway, he'd given the rights to this guy to direct it. And they got, enough money they got Jerry Lewis and Madeline Kahn, and they played these twins. And there was like all this crazy prosthetic makeup for it. And like the people who did the prosthetics for that went on to become Academy Award winners. But yeah, I have this awesome Polaroid of me and Madeline Kahn, and she had been like, I just idolized her. And I was, oh gosh, no, maybe I was.
Oh, sweet mystery of life, at last I found you.
My dad took me to see Blazing Saddles in the theaters in the 70s. So I had always just thought like she was like the queen of the world. I just thought she was the funniest, most wonderful person ever. And my job, I hadn't met her yet. I was just the assistant. My boss, and it was the best movie I'd ever worked on at that time. I think I was 18 or 19. So now I think I was young enough to drink. And my boss hands me $2,000 in cash, and I'm supposed to go meet her at the shoe department in Neiman Marcus in Beverly Hills. Like I'd never met her before. And I'm like,
all right.
Look, I'm a girl from a hood. I'm like, I shop at thrift stores and stuff. I was supposed to buy her 2 pairs of shoes. I didn't know shoes could cost that much. Even back then, I had no idea. And I see her, and with no makeup, she looked like one of my mom's sisters. And anyway, she was the best. Best. And at the end, there were like 5 girls working on the crew, and one of them was the makeup artist. We ended up taking her to a male strip joint in North Hollywood as like a going away.
That is so cool.
It was very funny.
Did you see the series on Netflix, Remembering Gene Wilder?
I did. I just saw that not too long ago.
Well, we were watching it, and while we were watching it, Renee's on her phone looking up movie posters, and she got us a few like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and The Young Frankenstein and a bunch of Gene Wilder stuff because we love that guy. I mean,
oh my God, right?
Fantastic.
Absolutely adore him. Adore him.
Well, Kina, you didn't even ask why your name was invoked last episode.
Why? Was somebody talking about me?
Yes, we were. It was a new topic here. But we were talking about, Will and I, about how our work has ended up in like places like movie sets or TV sets or blah, blah, blah.
Cool, yeah.
And he actually got a text from somebody who would not reveal who they were because they wanted to show Will that one of his former pieces showed up on a porn site.
Oh.
In the background.
So you thought of me.
We thought of you and your costume days on the porn sets.
It's funny because Max and I were talking about Ron Jeremy just like the other day. Like he's gone crazy. He's gone like off the hook, like crazy.
Really?
For anybody who doesn't know, he's a real famous porno star from the 80s. But also I had seen so my dad's was a character actor, and he's in Back to the Future, I think 1 and 2.
Oh, really?
And he's at the very end when Michael J. Fox comes back to the future, and there's a wino on the bench that gets woken up, and like he has like one line. He's like, "Damn drug drivers!" But in the background, which I never noticed, and I saw this on like some kind of post, it's a XXX rated theater, and I guess it's a movie that my dad was in. However, my dad was never one of those kind of actors.
I see.
He was uncircumcised, which was not a thing he liked in porno movies. And
the fact that you know this is a little disturbing, but
we were like, I mean, it's weird. My cousins would, my one girl cousin would always be like, yeah, you guys were the naked family. Like, it was the 60s and 70s, like literally like in California, like our whole family had no clothes on unless we were going outside very frequently, especially if it was really hot.
Or setting up an art fair.
Yeah. But my dad would take regular roles. I mean, and although those are few and far between in a porno movie. But I mean, it freaked me out, especially the first time I ever did one. It was really disturbing, but they were paying me so much money and it was cash. And I was like, 19 to like
Mm-hmm.
go and dress people up. And then they'd kick you off the set. Most of them would kick any woman. If you were like a makeup artist or a hairdresser, if you were a female crew member, I would say 85% of the time, the dudes who were producing it also had wives and families, and like they had these normal lives. And it was very uncomfortable for them to have a crew member that wasn't like an actress, quote unquote actress.
Okay.
I think I've told you the Tracy Lord story.
No.
Okay. So I didn't know who she was at the time. But I remember we were shooting up at this house in Tarzana, gorgeous house in Tarzana. And we did her wardrobe and was a makeup artist / hairdresser. And me, she left to go do her scene. And we just were left in the prep room. And I was like, I look at this girl, the makeup artist, and and I were about the same age. I think we were about like 22. And I was like, I don't think that girl is even 18. I think I think there's something not okay here. And we went in her purse. We went into her purse to
get
look
like
at
her driver's
ID.
license?
And it said she was 21. And 5 years later, it came out that she had just turned 21. And so she was 16 years old.
Fake
and
ID.
we knew it, but we couldn't prove it. Like she drove up in a Corvette, and you know, I don't know. I always felt weird, but I was like, oh, damn it, I knew it.
Yes.
And then my husband Lex ends up working after we moved here to Pittsburgh. He did a movie called Zach and Mary Make a Porno.
Okay.
And she's in that. So my husband got to work with her years later.
Full circle moment.
Yeah, you can edit all this out if you want. Okay.
I love it. No, I love it. It's great.
Weird. It's a weird life.
It's so great. It is. Totally. But has your work showed up on any kind of TV, movies, any kind of sets like that?
But when I lived in LA, like I think some show that Lex was on, he was friends with the decorator, and she rented a couple of pieces from me.
Okay.
Which was great. It was a couple $100 just to rent them out for the weekend. Okay. And then one of the actors, and I can't remember his name because I can't remember anybody's name anymore. Okay. The actor contacted me and bought the piece, which was interesting.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah.
Oh. It's like a try
I'll think
it
of
out.
the name tomorrow.
Yeah, right.
I'll think of his name tomorrow.
You'll be like, Douglas, let's drop that in.
That's the other thing. Like I've had the name memory problem start going like noticeably this past year. I recognize people's faces, but like the other day I couldn't remember Brad Pitt's name. I was like, oh that's scary. Like maybe I need like some medical testing. But you know, you go to these shows and like people who have collected from you before, I'm like, I have to make a system to where I look at last year's or even the last couple of years and look at these people's names and what they bought. And I might have to ask somebody their name, but then I need to make like a cheat sheet, I think, right before going back to any good show. So people appreciate it when you know what piece they got and that they remember you.
Well, this year
or that you remember them.
Yeah. Well, that's been my experience this year with the aging brain myself. I've always prided myself in, I remember collectors' names, and they always perk up and they feel special. And sometimes it helps build, you know. But I've tried it out lately where I think I know their name and I say, oh, you're blah, blah, blah. And then they look at me and they go, no, you have me confused. I'm like, I will not be trying that one out anymore because I've fallen flat on my face several times on that one.
Oh, yeah. No, I know. And I used to have the mind. I never, ever even had to write anything down, ever. I would go into meetings when I was doing like wardrobe for TV commercials, and you have very little time to prep. And I have meetings with the ad agency and the talent and the directors, and they're giving me notes. And I never wrote anything down and I never made a mistake. But started in my 40s. But man, this last year, it's like, I heard an interview like 10 years ago with Paul McCartney, and he was like, I think we might be like the iPods where it's like memory almost full. Like, because that was happening to him. I'm like, maybe that's it.
It's almost full.
It's like a cookie jar and it's just going to start overflowing.
It just reached its limit.
And you're way younger than I am. I'm going to be 62.
Oh my God.
60 freaking 2. I was born in 62, though. So I'm thinking it might be a good year for me.
You're born in 62 and is that like a golden birthday or something?
I don't know. I think it's kind of special. And that's why, my friend and his husband are throwing me this gala in Wichita this coming weekend.
So tell me, tell us about this opportunity.
Well, it's a private show, and him and his husband have been coming to Plaza since the first year. Well, maybe even before, but I met them, I believe it was in 2007, and they bought a piece from me. And then they just have continued to support me. Wow. And so much so that I've become very friendly. Like, we'll text back and forth like all the time during the year.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And they're super special. But about 3 or 4 years ago, they had decided to build this very schwanky building in downtown Wichita. They had been living in these super cool lofts that were like brick interior, and they decided they wanted to build their own place. And so it's like the ground floor is a huge, incredible garage that has like a lift for the second car, so they can kind of stack 2 cars in there.
Yeah.
But it's spotless, right? It's like nicer than my living room, their garage is. So we're going to set up our panels. And he's doing just like a private birthday party. I'm going to get to show my work there. And then they have a penthouse garden terrace on the top, like a guest room that has its own ensuite with a door that goes out to the private terrace. And when they were just designing it and building it, like, he's been planning, I'm going to have a party for you. You have to come. And it took him longer to build the house than they thought it would, which I think is a thing. I think you just have to know if you're doing any kind of building that's
right. You have to add it times 2, whatever the timeline. When I
got into Plaza, the second I got into Plaza, I was like, hey, I did get into Plaza. Do you want to do it this year? And he was like, yes. Oh my God. And so he has this itinerary that is off the hook. And they're making a special Kina cocktail. And he has signs with like images from my pieces. And it's KINA KOCKTAL Kina cocktail. And it's lemonade and vodka. Sounds amazing.
Incredible.
And it's pink. It's pink. I love pink.
Wow. Well, I think that is...
I'm super excited.
That's really cool. I mean, it's not just that your work hits. You know what I mean? You form the connection. Your work is you. You form these connections with people, and they want to have a show for you and feature you.
And he's been so incredible. Like, he's told, lots of his friends about my work. And so his friends over the years, like, I've gotten so much business just from him going, oh, you have to look at my friend Kina, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Super. Yeah. So we're really, really, really excited.
Cool.
About doing that. So we leave tomorrow. We'll be in Wichita tomorrow night.
Have you ever had anything like kind of a show like this before with a collector putting on a private show for you?
Nope. Not to
not
I might be forgetting something because I don't remember. I mean, I did like a couple things like invitationals when I lived in LA. Before we moved to Pennsylvania, where I would have like an open house, like have work for sale, and maybe I would invite another artist or 2. But I think that's kind of it.
This sounds like a great opportunity. And I think a lot of us have had collectors say, oh yeah, you should come by and do this at our place or whatever. And you kind of that skeptical side of us goes, that's really sweet, but this seems like a pretty sure thing. I mean,
it does. And I want to see their place. And the deal is that it's only a 3-hour drive from Kansas City. Yeah. So we're already there. Like, we're already practically there, which is why we kind of had to do it at this time. And I was like, did I mention it's my birthday?
We'll link it all together.
No. So a couple came in on Saturday night who are like, we're friends of theirs, and we're coming to the party. And I was like, oh my God, I feel so special. I was like, I feel like I should have a tiara. And this woman is like, I'm totally bringing a tiara for you to wear.
For sure. This better be on social media.
So damn fat. I wish I wasn't so damn fat right now. I'm at maximum chubbiness. I'd like to look really good, but I went to the tent store to look for an outfit, but they were all out of black. So forget. Well, honestly, Douglas, when I saw you in Fort Worth, I was a little worried. You were so thin.
Oh, somebody said to me they thought I was getting frail earlier this year. It's like, oh no, I'm okay.
You were so thin, but I'm so proud of you. And you guys just go to your room and you eat good. I'm like, where do you get? Is it Renee? Where does the self-control?
Well, she is really good with the old willpower and exercise and all that kind of stuff. This is what I've been most of my life, my size, but I put on so much weight with my physical problems I was having. I couldn't move. I couldn't bike like I used to, couldn't exercise. I didn't feel like myself anymore. So it feels good to be getting stronger. And I knew that when I went in for my second surgery, that if I didn't get some weight off of my body, that recovering from that surgery was going to be awful. So anyway, it was just timely. And it's just a good reminder that we can work at that kind of thing. It's not fun. I hate being uncomfortable. I hate it. I hate it with a passion, but it can be done.
Uncomfortable meaning, see, I'm hungry. Uncomfortable that I'm so fat, but hungry. Yeah.
I hate being hungry.
Why does food have to be so delicious?
And I mean, honestly, it comes down to anxiety for me. I think it's a good stress reliever. I've caught myself since I've been watching my calories and stuff that I will consume more beverages. How weird is that? That I'm like noticing how much like soda, water, whatever, I'm like constantly like down in something. I'm like, I wonder if this is all tied. That's probably a topic for my shrink and not for the podcast.
No, I think in Kansas City, I think Max and I each drank 10 gallons of water.
Yeah, right. And you were still dehydrated, I'm sure.
We couldn't, we couldn't get enough water. It's like, I'd never been so thirsty my entire life. But anyway, I'm glad to be going back.
Yeah. Well, one last point about Kansas City I thought was kind of interesting is, I live in a small town just outside of the Twin Cities in Wisconsin.
I know where you live. I love Stillwater.
Just across the river from there. But yeah, River Falls, right? So you say River Falls anywhere else in the country, nobody knows where the heck we're talking about. You know how everyone who walks the show wants to know where you're from, and then they want to engage in conversation and tell you blah, 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 what they know about your area. Well, nobody knows anything about our area unless you're in Kansas City. So the Kansas City Chiefs used to practice at the university stadium here in River Falls. So one after the other, you're from River Falls, you're from River Falls. Well, one of our collectors, which I didn't know this until this time around, I think they're retired now from working for the Chiefs. And so he was telling us all sorts of stories about coming to River Falls. It almost felt like he didn't think I believed him. So he would tell me about like the little pizza joint down the street and on what block it was, just so I knew that he was telling the truth about it, that he knew where River Falls was. Anyway. How about for you? Do you ever have that where people like will get really tied up into where you're from?
So mine, it says Allison Park, PA. My sign does. And that is where I live. It's a suburb of Pittsburgh, 10 miles north of the city. Oh. And like so frequently people were like, where is that in Pennsylvania? Like, my mother is from Philadelphia. I'm like, yeah, that's the other Pennsylvania.
Right.
Some people refer to it as Pennsyltucky, which they're not wrong. Yeah, they're not wrong. We're super close to Ohio and West Virginia. Okay. So politically, it's a small city and like a lot of rural communities. And it had been gerrymandered, right? And so like coming up, last time it was the cities because there's more people in the cities that kind of tipped it.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think like, aside from sending Act Blue money, like I used to donate to campaigns. Yeah. That's your only choice. Sorry. Yeah. I don't know for anybody who's
political a little bit here.
I vote Democrat. I prefer to actually support people who are unknown, like down ballot, who like really need a push. But now it's like you used to be able to like write a check to somebody's campaign, but now it's Act Blue. And then if you donate any money through Act Blue, they sell your phone number and you're getting texts all night. I was like, you don't want my money, apparently. And I've made comments and I've responded and I'm like, I don't know what to do. two of my neighbors are on the poll workers.
Yeah.
And they are saying that they're looking for more poll workers this year. So I'm like, maybe that's how I can contribute. There was a way to get people to a polling place, like volunteer for that. Or I don't know. I'll probably look more into it. Like we've got this little private show. We come back, we're throwing a surprise party for Lex's brother, my brother-in-law.
Which you're telling everybody on the air.
Oh, they're not going to. No, this won't. You know what? They're not going to listen. They're not going to listen. No.
So anyway, birthday party for his brother.
Super exciting too, because his last name is Crow as well. And one of the gals who works in my studio part-time when she's got like a few hours, she's actually my dentist's ex-wife. And she's like, she actually has a degree in industrial design. So she's crazy smart.
Nice.
Mold maker, all of this stuff. We decided we're going to make him a cake that looks like a bottle of bourbon because he's a bourbon collector.
Wow.
And we got a bottle of Old Crow. Max photographed it and photoshopped his face into it.
Wow.
And instead of saying Old Crow, it says Old Ass Crow. And we ordered rice paper like labels that are edible. And we're going to put it on this cake. And my friend Jamie, who works for me, is making the top as a bottle out of something called isomalt.
What is that?
It's like a sugar. It's like a sugar that you can shape it and it'll look like the clear part of the bourbon. And
that
like, it's like, oh, if there's a cake, it has to be a sculpture, right?
So how did we get here from politics?
I don't know. I think I'm talking about like how much I've got going on
and you're right.
This month. And so like, I probably won't be able to like sit down and think about what I can do for the election probably till like mid-November.
Well, you're in a purple state. We're in a purple state. I kind of feel like, we've got to like do what we can, right? I mean, I think that way, but I don't know exactly other than putting a yard sign out front of my house. I mean,
I'm at the end of a neighborhood. No one's ever going to see my yard sign where my house is. So
like that would even change anything anyway. Anyone sees a yard sign, they're like, let me shoot at it.
I don't know who's undecided. I never understand that. Why aren't you decided? I don't know.
Right.
I have to say, like, I am thrilled that Biden
stepped aside,
bowed out.
Yeah.
Bowed out. I am thrilled. And, bless him for his service and all of this. But
yeah. Well, now, do you go political in your work ever or political themes? No, you stay out of that? No.
Max won't let me. I did do a custom piece for a fellow out of St. Louis contacted me at the time. His wife was a representative. Okay. She was a Democratic representative in a very, very red district. Okay. And the piece I did was like a little girl in one box and she's pulling on like a tug of war. And on the other side, there's 4 old white dudes in various red, white, and black outfits pulling on the other side of it. Okay. So that's about, because I have a lot of collectors who don't vote the same way that I do. But I also I appreciate everybody's right to vote the way they want to. And that's what I really want to keep. I really want to keep that. I don't want to tell somebody else how to live their life and vice versa. Mm-hmm. I appreciate that about our country.
Yeah, for sure. I absolutely loved the meme that you had on your story the other day, the little old lady holding up the sign. Do you want to say what it was?
I think it said something about be glad all we want is equality and not revenge.
That's right. I love the revenge line. And not revenge.
And not revenge, because seriously, I mean, it's weird for me to I can't even believe that you're trying to take away people's rights. Like so many people fought for. And of course, I freaking took for granted because of when I grew up. Okay. My mother in this, I can't remember, I think it was mid to late 70s before she could even get her own credit card.
That makes it real, doesn't it? When you think of it like that, what our parents went through and experienced.
Yeah. And I don't want to go back. No. It's just absurd to me. So I think it's so many very religious people, I don't know why religious people buy into those candidates. I don't.
Yeah, but maybe
I don't understand religion either. So I'm I'm a hardcore, longtime atheist.
So then if you can't understand that, understand
I don't get
religion,
it.
then of course,
Yeah.
So. But
Yeah.
how about the whole idea of the election year? Did you experience any struggles this year or hesitation anyway with sales?
When we went to Detroit, which I love because it's the easiest drive to any show I've ever done since I lived in California and went like to the local park. Like not just a 4-hour drive, but a flat, easy 4-hour drive, and super, super cute neighborhood.
Okay.
While we're setting up, oh my gosh, all these artists who had done the show previously are like, oh, you're going to be so busy. You're not going to be able to see across the street. And then we had threats of storm and really, really heavy hot weather predicted. It's a 4-day show for the Friday. It's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And usually I would be in Art and the Pearl in Portland. But the drive is now, the distance is become very, very daunting.
Yeah.
Because of the rising costs of everything. And so the crowds did not pan out. I still had some good sales and I could sell my prints, which is what I was kind of expecting to do.
Because that's a show that casts a really big net, right? And you can have reproductions and so cool.
Yep. And it was interesting because every single day, there was a completely different kind of crowd. And it's probably due to the musical attraction. I mean, that makes sense to me. But there were a lot of people carrying Trump lawns.
Oh, they were.
But, and everybody, consensus is like, it's because of the election year, it creates economic insecurity because you just don't know. But here's the thing. What I found, it doesn't matter who wins. Right? Sure. As soon as the decision's made, you're fine.
The floodgates open. Right.
No matter who won.
If we still have a democracy, Kina Crow.
So scary.
We won't go there. We won't go there. That's for Pod Save America. That's not for the Independent Artist Podcast.
It's very, very super scary.
I don't know about you, but I mean, earlier in the year, it was like, for us, it was, everything was normal. I mean, what we would go for as a goal, we would, have those conversations. We felt like some of them would be like delayed until the time was right, and some of them would go for it. And we ultimately were feeling like we were getting from the shows what we wanted. And then something just kind of happened mid-year here. And maybe it was right after, the switch happened and Biden bowed out and Kamala stepped in. Maybe it's getting closer to it. We're still having the good conversations, but it seems like the conversations are all about when the house is built or maybe next year, or it's all delayed. And so it's hard to be like super patient, be like, I kind of want to close on this now. So I'm just trying to like not let the anxiety wash over me and be like, okay, things are going to be fine. Just keep doing what you do. Keep showing up, making the connections. And
just keep swimming. That's what Hannah and I say every day in the studio. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. Just keep going.
Yeah. And how is that Hannah Flower doing? She's like her second
good.
Full year now doing this?
Yeah, she didn't get into a lot of shows. Like she got into shows last year as an emerging artist, and like she didn't get into, I don't even know how many she applied to. She was going to move back home full time last year, and then she decided, oh yeah, I'll come back and maybe just go home for a couple months, because I think she'd rather work as a studio assistant than a shoe salesperson or something. I don't.
Right.
She's just getting better and better, but it's hard, and I really want to encourage her because her work is gorgeous and she's so good, and she makes me jealous, like how good she is and like how good she is, and she's freaking only 26. I mean, that pisses me off, right?
Right. Totally.
She's just trying to find her people, trying to find her crowds, trying to find out, where her good shows are. And it's very expensive
learning curve
ordeal to do that. And things cost more, like relatively more for like her and my son Max than they did for me at my age,
Okay.
Of course, I'm like, I was in my 20s in the 80s and everybody was rich.
Okay.
And then if you're a weirdo like me and you like 12 and 18-hour days, 7 days a week, then you could make even more money.
Right.
She's not giving up. Like, so many people are like, oh, I know you had a terrible show, but don't give up. And she had a woman in Detroit come up to her at breaking down. She was like, I can't afford to buy anything, but I just want, and she gave her like, I don't know, $50 or $100 saying, I just want you to keep, like, don't give up. Just keep going.
Oh, that's so amazing. She did
well in Cherry Creek, you know? It's a show that it's not, you know, I've had bad shows at Cherry Creek too, but I did have the strangest interaction. My next door booth neighbor at Plaza was Jim Brown, who's like, he and I are just, I've known him, I think, for now 18 years. And he's just one of my best buddies. I keep in touch with him all year round. And we're just sitting there talking, and this woman comes up to me and asks me, like, kind of interrupts our conversation. It was like, what's your best show? And I have a lot of collectors who will ask me about other shows because that's one of the things that they do.
Like they'll travel across country to go to a show. Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I even had one collector who surprised me, who's in Kentucky, and he surprised me in Portland one year.
Wow.
Which was so cool. Yeah. But yeah, this woman says, like, out of the blue, what's your best show? Or what's your favorite show? I was like, well, they have different shows, have different, like,
right. It's like we're trying to describe our kids.
Like, I like them for all these different reasons. And then she's like, I mean, monetarily. And I was like, oh, I guess maybe Cherry Creek. I don't like, it's an odd thing to ask somebody you don't know. And then she goes into like how her husband's a screen printer and he's at this show, but she didn't have like an artist assistant badge on, or she didn't introduce herself.
Oh, right.
You know, and you do hear people like, oh, like people are going to climb over your dead body to get into Cherry.
Exactly. Right. Tell me your best show. Tell me now. Tell me now. Because I want it.
Right. Like, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I've been noticing a lot of new faces out on the road this year. How about you? Does it kind of seem like there's a younger crowd coming in?
Yes. But most specifically, when we did this show in Detroit, we met so many awesome artists that I had never met before. Like some good work and some really awesome, fun people who do a whole other, like, all these shows that I've never even heard of, that I don't know. And because one of the reasons that we're trying to stay within unless it's a show where we know, like, it's absolutely 100% worth the trip, we're trying to stay within a day. We're trying to stay within a day's drive because it makes such a difference on our physical, you know, having a day off to rest, like an extra day, or catch up on your work, or clean your refrigerator, or, you know, whatever it is you need to do. Because I always feel like I never, ever have enough time to do stuff. Yeah, I met some lovely people at that show in Detroit. And I do have to say, I did want to kind of say this. I know it's a show that's not on a lot of artists' radar, and maybe a lot of people did not do well this year. But the people who put on the juried arts show, they care so much. They go out of their way. They bend over backwards to do as much as they possibly can with even their small and limited resources to make it a good experience for the artists. And even one thing I saw there, which I thought was so smart, like, because their section, they're in charge of, you know, the restrooms for their section. Like, the food has its own, and the music, and then the kind of flea market stuff. They had a tent for nursing women and changing babies. I've never seen that at another show.
I've never either. Right.
And I was like, that's so smart. But they really care. And they were trying to build this show up into something like, I mean, it's going to be tough because it's always against that music. And until they get rid of the flea market street,
it's hard to keep the energy up when we know that maybe 10% of the masses are there for fine art, and we have to, like, sift through who's going to be our potential people and not just have it be a lot of dumb conversations that aren't going anywhere. Yeah, I said it, dumb conversations.
It almost, you can edit this out, but it almost sounded like you were going to say dumb cunt. Sorry.
Well, that's one of those words you can say, but Will or I cannot
You can say. Just pretend you're British. Like the British don't have an issue with that word.
They don't, right?
It's just like saying asshole. It's the same. Yeah. It's fine. It's totally fine.
Okay. Yeah.
I give you permission.
I'll take your word for it, but I'm still not going to say it. So, you said that this show, you didn't see jurors. You didn't see the judges come in and you won an award. But it's a lot of the shows, they'll come in ahead of time and they'll say, the juror will be with you shortly. Yes. You know what I mean? And then we kind of have our spiels that we need to give.
Yeah.
So like, what do you give? What is your spiel? Anything big and profound, or what is it?
What do you want to know about it? It's pretty introspective. It's about being human, but also like there's the materials and the way it's made. So I kind of ask them, what are you interested in? Thing about it is like every piece of my work has text on it. So it's going to let you in on the joke.
Its own story. Yeah.
So people who don't like words on artwork, they're just going to be like, okay, thank you. It's like, I definitely know I'm not everybody's cup of tea. Mm. And like, there's work out there that I respect it, but it's not my cup of tea either. So I get it. I mean, like if I was a juror, I would probably like give all the awards to Mark Winter.
Yeah. Sure, right.
Just because I love that stuff so much. I just love it so much. But so we all have our, I'm not that good at the spiel, and it depends. I'm going to either engage with them or I'm not. Like, I'm not going to a show to try to win an award. I'm going to try to make sales.
Yeah. And that's the other thing, is the bonus for you. I mean, if it happens, right?
It's awesome. Yeah. It's super, super awesome. And Detroit, they gave me best of show.
Oh, cool.
So I won an award there too. Yeah. Woo, I'm on a roll. But they give out cash prizes. Cool. And they gave out several awards. So
I try and, tell a little bit about how we got into it and how we work together and kind of what our intention behind the work is. But I had somebody, another artist, talk to me recently about the spiel and the story. It's like
the elevator pitch.
Yeah, the elevator pitch. But this artist sounded a little bit like, well, if the work doesn't speak for itself, then what does my story have to do with any of it? Like they were trying to be like, if the story has to sell the work, then it's not strong work. They sounded a little bit
bitter.
It sounds bitter, doesn't it? It does sound bitter.
So I think there's so many artists who hate the artist statement.
Okay.
thing. But right, and Chris Dahlquist, just saying, like she's another one of those that she's like, well, she gives you almost like a formula to ask yourself questions about it. But what I've found over the years is that it's just more about, for me and my work, about being super honest about what it is. And people were like, well, I'm not a good writer. I'm an artist. So I don't write a good.
Okay.
First of all, now you could probably freaking plug that into AI and do it. But I kind of prefer the journey of coming up with something and like understanding it myself, because it's weird for me. My artwork, I'll make something, I'll be drawn to making something that I have no idea why I'm drawn to do that. And it kind of informs me, and it's like, it helps me grow as a human being.
Okay.
I don't know if that's true for you guys. I mean, yours is about shape and color, but also about like this teamwork thing, which you guys got a strong marriage. you can work together, like in the heat. You work together.
Given all of the stressors, definitely. It is. It's all about learning how to like naturally just be present and reactive to things. And so the evolution of the work, we set the intention, we evolve with the work as it's evolving. And I think that there's a real kind of like a quietness that has to happen and a presence that has to happen to be able to evolve with it and not be like, it's not going where I wanted, it's going in the garbage kind of thing. I guess that is my take on the process side of it. But as what we're trying to say, to a fine craft artist can sometimes get a little bit like a needle in the side of the neck, like, oh, please, I'm not making a comment on society with my work right now. I mean, and it's okay that it's not that, and it's okay that there is stuff that is doing that. But I feel like when that is asked, it feels like maybe somehow it's a statement on a lacking, or you know what I mean? Like it's somehow less than, and I have an issue with that.
No, here's my take.
Sure.
When I see sculptural glass, wood, metal, it creates a mood for a space.
Right.
Right. No, I mean, that's the big deal about it. And that's why it's really important. And if you have it in your home, especially glass, I find, or your forms anyway, there's something soothing about it. So if somebody has a high powered job, and they're thinking and they have to have a lot of pressure at work, but they get to come home into something that makes them feel soothing. That's a huge, important thing in their daily life. That's just my perspective. Justin Tillett, his new, they're not new anymore, but the wall pieces and how they're built just like boggles my mind. Actually, my collector in Wichita has a couple of his pieces.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know his work, look him up from the past.
It creates a mood.
It is so cool. I'll drop a link to his page, but I'm following you there. There is, I mean, that is truly, you just put into words what Renee and I talk about all the time, is there's an energy that we are trying to share. That is who we are. That is our inner core. It's not intellectual. It is emotional. And so I feel like that does benefit our audience and the world.
It absolutely does. And the thing that I'm super jealous about you guys, so Chris Dahlquist's work is the same thing, especially her black and white, the Measuring Abundance series. It's like, I even will go into that booth and go, oh, right?
Yeah.
Like mine is totally different. I'm like, have a drink. Let's have some laughs. I mean,
yes, totally. Right.
Although I have some like sweet ones. I love when people read something and they cry. It's great. But it absolutely, it sets a mood. It sets a tone. And if serenity and peace and quiet is like, take a breath, that it's super important. And I think a lot of people don't understand why. Well, why would you put that in your house? And I'm for sure I'm what is it going into what do they call it? Now my brain is frying, like a curiosity shop. Okay. Where there's all kinds of little things. I think that's kind of my collection in my house.
You're right.
Because I what's behind this door? I want it to be intriguing, and I wanted to discover little things and secrets. And
I know. I saw one of your pieces earlier this year, and I read it. It says Mr. Fancy Pants, and then you look at his big smile and the big teeth, and it's like he's feeling so good about himself, and it made me laugh so hard because, you know what I mean? It's like he is feeling it, and you know what I mean? And it's such a goofy, fun, heartwarming piece. And
oh my God, he's going to totally hate my guts. Although I've told him this, but when I first came up with the idea, and that's not supposed to look like him or anything, but there's an artist out there, Heinrich Toe, who used to wear these crazy pants.
And this was based on that, on him?
It was supposed to look like him, but it's just what gave me the idea. It's not this is you, Heinrich, right? But I was just he used to wear these crazy fancy pants, and I was like, he's little Mr. Fancy Pants. It's so cute. And he was like, he didn't appreciate it. But it's not supposed to be him. I just had that's just how it crossed my mind.
Right. It's the crazy little funny ways of looking at the world. Some spark happens, and then it becomes a piece of artwork.
That's how I entertain myself.
So we've talked about a lot on the podcast about emerging artists, people coming into this realm, but something that came to me recently at a show, I'm talking to a number of artists who have been telling me about how much longer they have on the road. So on the other end of the spectrum, where they're like, I'll be doing this for 2 more years or 1 more year. Or, this is my goal, blah, blah, blah. And I know leading up to the pandemic, it was like people were getting towards retirement age, and then everything shut down. And then it's like, well, okay, the world is telling me it's time to throw in the towel. But now that we're back in full swing again, you just said you're thinking about that aspect. I mean, what comes into play with that for you, with thinking about how you're going to have your exit strategy?
Yeah. So my husband's a couple years older than me. So he wants to retire from his union at 65. And I'm like, I don't know that that's a great idea. And it's so complicated too.
Right.
Just when you get old and you're not that great at stuff anymore, then they make it super extra hard. So, I mean, I will not stop working.
Correct.
Period.
Yeah.
End of story. I've already told everybody, I was like, if I don't have the ability to make work, you get me a little something, something, let me go to sleep. Cause I mean,
you'll be like Frida Kahlo in your bed doing artwork in bed, right?
We were talking about that. And because when my mom passed away last year, and we did home hospice, and I had these little Blink cameras, and she was in her bed, but it didn't face the TV. So Max and Lex had to go over, and they just lifted the bed up with her in it and like turned it around. And it was like, it's just like Frida Kahlo. The setting up, the freaking setup and break down the rest of it.
That's what I'm talking about.
Down for
the outdoor art
That's the
fairs.
part that it's hard. It's super stressful. Like we're trying to like travel a little bit less, get there if we can drive there within a day, I can also get like an Airbnb, and my husband can come with me. And I don't think Max is thrilled at it because he has his, like, we have our routine, and it's really hard sometimes when somebody wants to help you.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost harder. Yeah. It's like, no, you just go and we'll do it. Cause it's like, but I was like, if Lex is going to come to more shows, he can be helpful. He just needs to learn what his jobs are.
Right. Give him an assigned list.
Right. But he also is a chatty Cathy. So it's like, wait, where's the furniture blanket that we were expecting? We turn around and he's talking to the next door neighbor that he had all weekend to talk to. I was like, no, this is breakdown. This is how this is going now. But I'm going to have less time with him, down the road. So I'm like, no, if he can come, he's coming. I prefer an Airbnb, or like if a hotel, a show gets you a great hotel deal, which we started talking about, like, the rating and ranking of shows is personal to artists. So you have to like the pros and the cons, right? So there's some shows that are close, and your hotel will be a nice hotel across the street for very little money. There's good restaurants, but it's wind, or the sales aren't as good. So obviously sales are everybody's top. I don't know anybody who's going to be like, we just go do it for fun. Right. Sales has got to be your top.
When you go back because the hotel deal is great, but the sales are sucky, then you have to start looking at your priority list.
And we have to do math. But the thing is, sometimes you never know. You just never know. Like we did Reston after the people had changed it. The art center had come under a new set of people running it. And their idea for art was a little bit more performance art than like art festival. Yeah. But they wanted to continue. But there's something happening within that city also. It's like a company bought out all of the property, and now they want to charge people for parking. So it changed the mood for the community. So there's so many things involved. But like I was having a terrible show. Hannah and I go to lunch, and we leave Max and Lex in the tent, and I go to lunch, and he sold like $12,000 worth of work while I was gone. And
wow.
It's like this couple came by, bought a $7,000 piece. They didn't even know the show was going on. They lived there, and they didn't know the show was going on on that street. And they were just walking, and they happened to walk by. So you never know.
Well, Will and I were talking about that last episode, where it's like, when will you go back to a show that you didn't sell well to? Like, if you go to the show, go back to the show where you didn't sell well, but you had so many promising conversations. That's one thing. But then if you have a show where you didn't really talk to anybody promising the whole weekend, but then at the very end, let's say one sale saved your ass, It's like, well, do I go back to that? I'm not so sure sometimes. It's like maybe our audience isn't there and we just got lucky.
Well, we have not done Ann Arbor in years and years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I did it 2 or 3 times. I think every single time we were evacuated because of the weather.
Yes.
That's back when it was 10 to 10 and it was 4 days. And I know they've cut it down.
Yeah.
But that time of year in Ann Arbor or even in Pittsburgh is brutal.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the humidity is brutal. But I met like one of my very, very, very all-time highest, biggest collectors in Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
And it's a 4-hour drive.
Okay.
So I'm telling Max we're going to do it one more time.
Okay.
And there's a couple of shows that we want to hit that we've never done.
Mm-hmm. Isn't it crazy at this stage of our career to be like, there's a show out there we haven't done?
Well, ones that
I mean, we feel like we have an opinion on all of them, pretty much.
Like, I've never been able to get into Jazz Fest.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that's like, I want to get into Jazz Fest so bad.
Mm-hmm.
But now, like, we were talking about shipping. You can ship your vehicle fully loaded,
I've
too.
never heard of that. Really? You can?
Yep. And a friend of mine had done it. Now he said it was like 2019, but it was like $2,500 to take it from LA to Miami.
Okay.
Which was crazy cheap. Even if you got it one way, like I hit the wall with the driving.
Mm-hmm.
And now like Max does it, but he's my kid out there.
Sure. Right.
And
you worry.
So,
right?
I do. I'm the worst.
And I know last year you had a breakdown.
2.
The vehicle, you had a vehicle breakdown twice.
2.
Okay.
Yep. On the same trip to Portland. And the second one was just so long, so late and too close to Portland that we had to cancel, which just,
right.
That made me ill. But you know what? They were really awesome. They gave me my entire booth fee back.
Yeah, that's really
but
helpful.
Like the airline, there's stuff there. He had to have like an extra night in a hotel. So it cost us money to like go break down in the middle of nowhere twice. And my vehicle, like, I was like, I just don't want to buy a new one because they're $15,000. And I've been taking really good care of mine, but you never know.
You just don't.
It was something stupid and they didn't fix it properly the first time it broke down. So it caused something else.
Yeah. So what do you think when you retire from shows? What does it look like? I mean, will you just taper until you just...
Probably.
Yeah.
Because even Kathy Rose, who's another one of my favorite artists, she'll do one a year. Mm-hmm. Like, I want to do at least one a year. I miss my friends,
sure. Yeah.
Like, that's where my friends are. Mm-hmm. They're at art festivals. Mm-hmm. So but who knows? Like, if I need the money, if I'm like,
yes,
I don't know. We're trying to plan. We actually have a financial planner and we're trying to set up a whole thing, but our entire life working in the film industry, the way I grew up, my dad was an actor. Uh-huh. Like now we do things that there is no guarantee.
Absolutely.
Period. All you can do is the best you can do. Try to be like frugal and plan, like have a safety net for yourself or create one.
Yeah.
Hannah's having, my niece Hannah is like, applying to shows. If you're going to apply to 20 shows, that's like 2 weeks pay for her in the studio. It's really, really expensive. And then once you get in the show, your booth fee is due. So unfortunately, she is having to charge all of that stuff. I know that they're out there. I was going to maybe do a little bit of research to see if I could point her in any direction to where I know that there are banks out there that will give microloans to artists. I'm like, even if you have what a credit card is charging a 26-year-old right now who's trying to make a living as an artist is evil.
It is evil. That's true. I mean, my kids are learning it too. It's like, I'm like, you did what? You have that? And they're like, it's life. We need it to live. And I'm like, I thought we did a better job of kind of laying that out. But, our kids don't learn from us telling them what to do. They learn from figuring it out themselves. So,
they do. And so, like, I'm such a micromanager. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm like that. The problem is having children. I tell everybody I know, do not have children because the thing is you like them. Right. And like for me watching my adult children, navigate the world. It's the same thing as like when they were a toddler running down the driveway and I knew there was going to be road rash. And I just like, and it doesn't go away. And I was like, I thought like when they were 18, I wouldn't have this anymore, but that's the problem. I still care, but not like about my own children, like my niece. She's really like the daughter I never had.
Well, she's walking in your footsteps, basically. I mean, the art world footsteps, but not what got you to the art fair world. But you know what I'm saying, right? She's trying to do the art.
She's going to be like, she's already better than I am. So like, I'm like, that pisses me off. Yes. How come you get to be so good? Like when you're 6 years old and you're like incredible. Yeah. And you've got like years and years to like be like even better. So life would have been way different for me if somebody was like, oh, you're an artist. You should go to art school. I didn't know that. My parents were like, go get a job. Here, I know somebody making a porno movie and you know how to sew. There
you go. Right. They farmed you out to whatever industry is out there.
You know what? I'm not complaining. I had some awesome, like, I had an awesome time. I had an awesome job. Like shopping with other people's money for clothes is a great job. Mm-hmm. Picking up their dirty underwear, actors' dirty underwear, not so fun. But all the time I worked at Nickelodeon, it was great, the stuff that we got to build. But there was this documentary that came out this year about Nickelodeon and about like
I saw it and I thought about like, you and the Whipples. I was like, oh my God, I wonder if you guys knew of any of this.
I'm texting all of my friends and it's like, oh my God, we knew that guy. We had dressed that perpetrator.
Oh my gosh.
We knew him and like nobody knew. Oh. And apparently there was a lawsuit even going on like the last 2 years that we were working there. I think that's the way I'm remembering it.
Okay.
And I was like, I never heard of it.
It's how that stuff can go on right under our noses and not know.
And we were like moms too.
Okay.
So like everybody in my department were moms. So it seems like we would have
been protective. You would have caught it.
Way over our heads. Wow. Yeah. So completely. No clue.
Wow.
That was going on.
Huh.
Yeah. I feel terrible too. I think it make it all of us feel really bad that we didn't know. But anyway, it was a great job because like on Monday morning you could come in and read the script and there'd be like, okay, and so is wearing a carrot costume. So we would like have to bust it out like, okay, this is and like have it within 4 days. I got to make stuff and I got to make stuff and that was a cool job.
Well, anybody who wants to hear more of these amazing stories that Kina is talking about, you can go back to her episode from the first season. Her episode was titled My Ridiculous Little Life. When I came up with that title, I was like, I wonder if that's going to offend you. Remember I texted you that and you're like, I think I want that on my tombstone.
Oh, hey, Douglas, by the way, like, so I just want to say, I try to keep up with the podcast and I don't, sometimes I have to binge it. I save it up and I binge it. And there's a couple episodes that definitely like stick with me.
Sure.
But I think it was one that you were just talking to Will not too long ago. I feel like it was this year. And you mentioned something called marine insurance.
Oh, inland marine?
I've never heard. What is it?
Inland marine?
Is that like the company?
No,
or is it a type of insurance?
That's the insurance that protects you for lost inventory.
Okay. Inland marine. Okay.
Right. So like if you get an insurance policy, there might be a policy for liability.
Right.
And then that's if you kill somebody or seriously maim them and they sue you. Right. But then there's also if you need to replace your tent or your work, that's another rider, and that's called inland marine. And for us, that one became so cost prohibitive, we just couldn't afford it anymore.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So it's like I would rather just remake. Not I wouldn't rather, but it's like if I think about how much I'm paying in a premium to offset the possibility of lost work, like if you think of it. That the lost work at materials cost, the premium doesn't necessarily protect you. Maybe some artists it would make sense. So people need to look into that to see if it's right for them. But I think our premium per year was going to be like almost $2,000 for having glass.
Just for having that one.
Yes. Just that part
just
of
for
it.
that. Because my insurance, I've always carried full liability. Like before they were like making you get it and include it. I've always had it because when we first started doing shows, and my husband Lex would come with me and they'd put me next to a glass artist.
Okay.
And he was so afraid if something happened and I destroyed all the glass artist's work.
Yeah.
So that's when I started carrying insurance, literally because of a glass artist. Because I'd be like, of course, I'd be mortified if something happened with my tent. Like, and we go the extra mile to make sure that our shit is secure.
Well, on behalf of all glass artists out there, thank you.
But my stuff is super fragile as well.
Yeah.
You know, and so we spend so much time and money packing it. And I have insurance if something happened to the building and the inventory.
Yeah, us too. But it's when we leave our house, that's when it's called, that heading in the Marine is referring to inventory offsite.
Okay, so if it's in your vehicle, like we loaded out of Kansas City yesterday, Monday morning, and there were artists in the parking lot that we don't know. And as we were like loading stuff, because I have a bunch of sculpture that's going to Wichita, we were having to load it back in. So we had to keep it in the hotel over the weekend. And an artist came up and she's like, I just wanted you to check your van because several vans were broken into. And we had already been down there and we're like, no, nobody touched ours. But we were also at a spot, we weren't back and up. We were like very visible, which is what we try to do.
Okay.
But if somebody steals your car or breaks in and steals your work or does your auto insurance?
This is the part of the podcast where I say refer to your insurance agent and they will explain all of those.
Okay. Thank you.
Because I don't want to be responsible for giving wrong information.
Okay. Fair enough.
Kina.
Are you bored of me already?
We have a full episode here. You are amazing at this. I tell you, thank you for joining us. This has been
Thank you for not making me cry.
Well, we still have another minute here. I could work it in if you really wanted me to.
Yeah. No, but that's the thing. I listened to your interviews. I was like, ooh, he goes straight for the gut. Like, you're like Barbara Walters. I literally call you Barbara Walters. Because you're just like, let's talk about your most personal things.
Right.
And people are like, oh.
Well, I've tried to make Will cry. It just makes him mad. And he screams at me and curses. So
he put the cur in curmudgeon,
he did
right?
He absolutely
I love Will, though. I love Will and I love his work.
But as our sign off, I thought this was very serendipitous. You've already mentioned that your birthday is next Wednesday, right? So this would be the Wednesday after this episode comes out, October 2nd. Is your birthday. Will's birthday is on the day that this episode drops, which is September 30th, and mine is sandwiched right in between yours and Will's. So this is going to be a birthday celebration. So thanks for joining us for this special birthday edition of the podcast.
Happy birthday in advance.
Happy birthday to you, and have a great show at the Collector's Home. And I hope it's a great party and it generates some big sales.
Thank you. And thanks for having me. This was so fun.
So I have a feeling that if Will ever gets tied up again or I get tied up, I think we could do this again in the future, maybe, if you're game.
Sounds awesome.
Thanks, Kina.
Thanks, Douglas. Take care.
Everyone out there, take care, everyone. Bye.
This podcast is brought to you by the National Association of Independent Artists. The website is naiaartists.org.
Also sponsored by Zapplication. That's zapplication.org. And while you're at it, find us on social media and engage in these conversations.
Be sure to subscribe to this podcast to be notified when we release new episodes.
Oh, and if you like the show, we'd love it if you would give us your 5-star rating and offer up your most creative review on your podcast streaming service. See you next time.